Good evening and welcome to my home in Selsey and a very special Sky at Night programme, the 700th, the longest running television programme in the world. This programme is dedicated to answering questions you've sent in. And with me, our friends of the Sky at Night.
For our last section, we've been joined by Dr. Brian May. He started out as an astronomer before being lured away by the bright lights of rock music.
How are you?
As the Astronomer Royal left, he made an intriguing observation.
I don't know any scientist who looks as much like Isaac Newton as you do.
I would enjoy that. That would be my after-dinner comment. Thank you very much. Lovely to see you.
Brian is going to help us answer some of the more general questions.
Okay, we are recording.
Let's begin with the questions. Let's have the first one, John.
And it comes from Adrian Barnard from Didcot. What inspired the panel to take up astronomy with such a passion?
This is a very easy question, and in common with thousands and thousands of other people in Britain, my inspiration was you, Patrick, of course. A little book which was in my school library called The Earth, and I borrowed it, and I think I almost never gave it back. I just read it from cover to cover over and over again, and I discovered about the formation of the Earth and trilobites and the emergence of life, and I was hooked forever. And I used to beg to be able to be allowed to stay up and watch the sky at night.
So I've forgotten that little book I wrote years and years ago.
It's a wonderful book.
Right, come on to you.
Well, it will be no great surprise, Patrick, that it was you again, but not a book this time. I sat in my first term at Torquay Boys Grammar School in the audience for a public lecture you gave on the outer planets. And you taught for an hour, and I don't remember the hour, but what I remember is what you said right at the end. You came straight to the front of the stage, and you said, well, I've told you what we know about the outer planets, but the truth is we don't know very much, and by the time any of you grow up, then we'll need to have found out a lot more. And it was the first time I'd heard an adult say, we don't know everything yet. And I thought, I want to do that. So it's entirely your fault. I still don't know much about the outer planets, though.
No, right. And you came up to me afterwards and began talking to me. I thought, then we'll keep an eye on this boy.
Very kind of you
Right,
to say.
come to you.
Well, again, at the risk of being repetitive, it was a book that you wrote, but I've got it here. So I brought it with me. It's this one. It's the Observer's Book of Astronomy by Patrick Moore. There it is. And it was, I know when it was because I got it as a school prize in 1978, so I chose it as a school prize.
What was the prize for?
Unfortunately for me, I thought it was, when I remembered this, I thought it must be physics or science. It's for 100% attendance. So it's not distinguished in that sense. But yes, it was this book.
It's in the same series as the Earth.
And I also asked for that for the book that I had as a school prize, strangely enough.
Yeah.
Because I'd worn out the copy that I got from the school library. Fantastic.
Well, John, what about you?
Well, Patrick, once again, it was you. And I remember being off school one afternoon with measles or something, and I watched a repeat of The Sky at Night one afternoon on BBC Two. And there you were. I'd never seen any presenter speak this way, and I was fascinated. So I was inspired into astronomy and impressions as well. And that's because of you.
Well, I'm flattered. In my case, it was picking up a book, The Story of the Solar System by G.F. Chambers, published in 1898. I read it when I was 7 in 1930. Right, next question, John.
This one comes from Mark Ike of Birchington in Kent. After all the previous shows, can you pick a highlight, or is there an episode, Sir Patrick, that sticks in your mind that has a real wow factor?
Shall I begin this one?
This one's for you.
The first photograph back from the other side of the moon. The Russians had said they'd send them over as soon as they got them from the probe Lunik 3, which was going around the moon, and they had used my charts, and they promised to send the photographs, and they did. And I was actually on the air live when they came through. So that was a great moment, I must say. What about you?
I think it would have to be the first moon landing.
Yes.
I was down in Cornwall with my drummer, Roger, and in his mum's house, and we just sat there watching a TV screen about this big, and there you were. And it was all very unreal. I think about it a lot, and it seemed like the most unlikely and sort of modern thing that could possibly happen. And it's a long time ago now, isn't it? You know,
It is indeed.
But that's an unforgettable moment, and I think it's one of these things, everybody knows where they were at that instant when it was one small step for mankind and one giant step for mankind, or whatever it was. I think he was slightly confused as well, wasn't he? But wonderful, I'll never forget that time.
We were seeing things actually as they happened, or rather 1¼ seconds later.
What about you?
The night Huygens, the probe landed on Titan,
Yes.
and I was at mission control, and because we'd already got to know the scientists, because we'd had them on the sky at night, we just stood in the corridor more or less and grabbed people as they came past as this story unfolded of a probe that they'd built landing on Titan and sending back the first images from this wonderful world.
As yet, we've still got no scientific data from Huygens. And there it is!
We have seen the impact of the probe with the surface directly from 2 sensors.
That's not my favourite bit. My favourite bit didn't get on camera. Just outside, there were a bunch of amateur astronomers with telescopes pointing at Saturn. And there was this line of scientists and engineers who'd built the thing that had landed on Titan, but who'd never seen Titan. And they were going up one by one and just looking. And I thought that summed up the sky at night, the professional and then the amateur telescopes. I think having both at once was a wonderful moment.
Well, I did have a letter once from a distinguished astronomer, whom I won't name, who made an important discovery of a nova. He'd made a completely independent discovery of Saturn. What about you, Amjad?
This is my first sky at night. So, as far as I'm concerned, this one is my favourite because it's my first.
What about you?
Well, I do rather love those moments where things perhaps don't go to plan, and that brings out your wonderful sense of humour.
I can't see a single star at the moment.
It's totally obscured.
I remember phrases like, oh dear, we're completely clouded out, oh dear.
It's coming out, yes, there is the moon, I can see it for the moment. No, it's gone again.
It's gone. However,
Absolutely infuriating, and there's nothing one can do.
Well, never mind. These things happen and we can't control it.
No telescope yet built will show a star
It's
at anything
gone,
except point of light.
Patrick.
Is it gone? Oh, no.
just as I got it on the crosswires, it blacked right out.
How absolutely typical. There's nothing we can do about it.
I can't move a 24-inch telescope quicker than that.
No, I'm afraid you can't.
And you've got a wonderful sort of stoicism when things don't go to plan. I think that's a wonderful quality of yours that I always admire.
Well, I feel very honoured. So I hope you've enjoyed our 700th Sky at Night. An anniversary and quite a record, I think.
Your questions have been both challenging and illuminating. With over 1,000, we've barely been able to scratch the surface. But go to bbc.co.uk/skyatnight and you'll find answers to a few more of your astronomical queries.
Well, end of 1 year. And now, next month I come back and we have the first program of our next 700. So until then, good night.